Internal Revenue Service IRS tax news. IRS Office of Chief Counsel reveals National Virtual Settlement Days effort this year to reach more taxpayers in more parts of the nation. IR 2021-61, March 18, 2021, Washington. The Internal Revenue Service Office of Chief Counsel has embarked on its most far-reaching settlement days program ever, declaring the month of March 2021 as, quote, National Settlement Month, end quote. National Settlement Month. This ambitious program builds upon the success achieved from last year's mini settlement days events when Chief Counsel shifted the program to a virtual format due to the pandemic. So obviously we had this situation where they put this online for the virtual format. Looks like they had some success with that, which is good. So it looks like they're expanding that and pushing it out at this point for March 21st being the National Settlement Month. So we have the Virtual Settlement Day, the VSD events will be conducted by every Chief Counsel office across the country and will serve taxpayers in all 50 states and the District of Columbia. Quote, Virtual Settlement Day events enable the IRS to deliver meaningful resolution options to taxpayers as the nation works through the pandemic, end quote, said IRS Commissioner Chuck Rettig. Quote, virtual options are an addition to the traditional methods of communication and interacting with the taxpayers that the IRS will always make available under normal circumstances, end quote. So they're basically moving this onto the virtual setting, which of course was the situation due to the pandemic to help with the social distancing. They are saying that once we have the normal circumstances, which hopefully, at some point will happen, we'll still have the other resources available as well. So the idea here, as I read it, this would be an addition of thing to help out and possibly add to once we're back in the normal circumstances, in addition to some of the services possibly that we had prior to that. But of course, we'll have to wait and see if that is indeed what actually happens once things, quote, get back to normal, end quote, whenever and if ever that seems to happen. I think it's going to happen at some point, but we'll see what happens. Settlement Days events are coordinated efforts that resolve cases in the United States Tax Court by providing taxpayers who are not represented by counsel with opportunity to receive free tax advice from low-income taxpayer clinics, the LITCs, American Bar Association, the ABA, volunteer attorneys, and other pro bono organizations. So that's going to be a great tool if you're in need for some advice and help with your tax situation with the IRS. So taxpayers can also discuss the tax court cases and related tax issues with members of the Office of Chief Counsel, the IRS Independent Office of Appeals, and IRS collection representatives. These communications can aid in reaching a settlement by providing taxpayers with a better understanding of what is needed to support their case. So obviously, if you're building a case, some kind of issue with the IRS, you want to make sure that you have what you need to go through the proper channels and support everything properly to build the case properly to move forward with it, which can be frustrating if you're not in a situation or have experience to go through that kind of system. It's a bureaucratic, of course, type of system that has certain, things that you're supposed to do in a certain type of way in order to move forward. So getting advice in certain situations could be a useful thing. If settlement is reached, IRS collection personnel will be available to discuss potential payment alternatives for those who choose to take their cases to court. The VSD process can also help by giving taxpayers a better understanding of what information they need to present the court to be successful. So clearly, if the IRS takes a position, then they're taking their position in accordance with a legal position with the law. And you might have a situation where you think there's something, not correct about that position, and you could challenge that position, of course, and then you could basically, take that position to court as well, and you would like to then get advice in order to go through the process of presenting your case in accordance with a way that will provide and yield the best results. So Taxpayers Advocate Service, the Taxpayers Advocate Service, the TAS employees also participate in VSDs to assist taxpayers with tax issues attributable to non-docketed years. Local taxpayer advocates and their staff can work with and inform taxpayers about how TAS may be able to assist with other unresolved tax matters or to provide further assistance after the tax court matter is concluded. If a taxpayer experiences difficulties concerning collection, TAS can also assist with collection alternatives. So as you go through this process, then you're going to have collection issues as well. You may have collection issues if you owe the IRS money. Then as you go through this process, then you have to deal with the collection issues that go along with it too, and they may be able to help with that. So how does one go about participating in a VSD event? One way is to be notified and invited to attend by the IRS working with the LITCs and pro bono attorneys. The IRS proactively identifies and reaches out to taxpayers with tax court cases which appear most suitable for the settlement day approach. So you may get a contact from it, and you might say, hey, I'm in trouble with the IRS, and you might think that you're just going to remove this thing, but it's actually probably a good opportunity if you do get that, because then you have access to these resources, and you might want to consider then taking part in that and getting access to these resources for further advice. So the IRS also generally encourages taxpayers with active tax court cases to contact the assigned chief counsel attorney or paralegal about participating in the March VSD events. Quote, I strongly encourage all taxpayers who have the ability to participate in a settlement day event to do so because they will understand their own case better while not giving up their day in court if they so choose, end quote, Rettig said. This year's VSD program includes several locations where these events have never been offered before, including Albuquerque, Billings, Buffalo, Cheyenne, Cleveland, Denver, Des Moines, Indianapolis, Little Rock, Milwaukee, Nashville, Peoria, Omaha, Reno. If I'm obviously gonna not say some of these names correctly, but I apologize if I do that. Sacramento, San Diego, and San Jose. So Chief Counsel has partnered with LITCs and the ABA to ensure there will be volunteers available to assist taxpayers in all 50 states and the District of Columbia. The IRS first announced virtual settlement days in May of last year. There's a link to that announcement. Since then, Chief Counsel and LITCs have successfully used VSD events to help more than 259 taxpayers resolve tax court cases without having to go to trial. This saves taxpayers and the government time and money. The legal assistance to taxpayers can potentially help achieve a better resolution to their cases. Of course, the counsel attorneys or paralegals assigned to cases are always available to settle cases outside of the VSD program. LITCs can contact their local chief counsel offices about events for their area. If additional information is needed, reach out to the Chief Counsel Settlement Day cadre or contact Sarah Sexton Martinez at 312-368-8604. So that you can check, there'll be a link to this, and if you want to look at that contact information, you can take a look at that contact information. It's not a toll-free call. Pro bono volunteers are encouraged to contact Meg Newman with the American Bar Association tax section and there's an email here, and so we'll have a link to this in the description so you can check out that email address if you so choose. In addition to local events, volunteers are being matched to serve where there are gaps in service. So once again, there's links to multiple things here and these contact information if you want to look into this in more detail. And there'll be a link to this in the description.